explosions and stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah. So review basically. I've not seen Dune Part 2, like I said at the start, but you two have. So just to clarify, the reason why I haven't seen it is there is no early screenings. Basically, not that I could see in the UK. There is a screening on Friday at midnight, and I don't want to watch that because it's too late. I can't really be bothered. I wouldn't get home till 4 a.m. and it would just ruin my entire weekend. Whereas I can just wait to watch it Saturday and then give you a review. So you guys have seen it.
Yeah.
Oh, Tom, do you want to give us your review first, and then Culture, you can
spoiler free, I imagine.
Yeah, let's keep it as spoiler. As spoiler free as possible. I think. I mean, it's difficult to spoil it because it's a book, and the book's been out for a while. So I'm always a bit surprised by the spoilers on this, but I guess not everyone's read the book. But yeah, we'll keep it as spoiler free as possible.
There's been some things that have been changed.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, that's why. Yeah, I kind of digress with the whole spoiler thing.
Yeah, I mean, this is a book that was turned into a movie twice and a miniseries once, and it was printed initially in '65.
Yeah, exactly. So is it spoilers? Well, as spoiler free as possible. Tom,
okay,
give us your thoughts on the movie overall.
Well, I enjoyed the first film, and I thought Denny did a really good job of adapting the first part of the book. Sure, there were some things I wish we had gotten there, but I thought, well, maybe he'll leave it for the sequel. But this one, I guess the quick, easy version of it is, it's one of those movies that they make movie theaters for. So I do recommend people see it in the theater in IMAX if you can.
Yeah.
And it sounds like a lot of people are going to go this weekend. It's already boasting $170 million opening weekend prediction, it looks like.
Yep.
Look, Javier Bardem, if he's not nominated for Best Actor come next year, I'm going to be upset.
Me too.
Timothy Chalamet actually proved to me the kid can act.
Yes.
Finally. The downside is the last quarter or half of the movie is where the problems lie. And the biggest issue is what they do to the character Chani.
Yeah.
And not only that, not to get too spoilery.
A role, don't they?
Not exactly. They change it. That's the big thing. It's changed, and I don't want to get into. If I say anything about it really too much, it's going to get into spoilers.
Yeah.
Another thing is they make a mistake of cramming 2+ years of story into 6 months time span. This movie literally picks up where the last one left off, and
then goes.
And I guess this is the most spoilerific thing I'm going to say, but it really ticked me off. You got Chekhov's baby in this movie, okay? You cannot have a pregnant woman and not have her having a baby. Just doesn't work that way. So that being said, yeah.
Alea is not born in this film.
Alea is not born in this movie. But it feels like there's a lot of stuff that was left out that is going to now be shoved into Dune Messiah. So that gives me a lot of pause. But at the same time, this is one of the best movies of the year so far. Across the board, cinematography, sound, all that stuff except for music, which is, pick your poison on that with that stuff. But yeah, no, overall, I'd give it like a 7 or 8 out of 10. The first half is brilliant, amazing. After that, there's some great stuff.
Yeah, okay, so you're splitting that up into 2 halves. But what about overall then? Overall, the experience, you left the theater going, yeah, this is good, or yeah, this is bad, or what?
I got to see it again, trying to turn off my lore brain.
Yep.
We talked to Elaine, who's known as Nerd Cookies in the community, and she's a big lore fan of Dune, and she had to say the same thing because I got mad. I got mad at the movie because of things that changed, and I'm like,
Fair enough.
So now I got to go back into it with the idea that, okay, I got to accept that this is an adaptation, not a 1-for-1.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair enough.
Now,
okay, interesting.
I have a more positive opinion than Tom does.
Yeah, fair enough. Go.
My initial thoughts are it's gorgeous, and what Tom is saying is find the biggest theater with the best sound, because this is what theaters are made for. This is one of those films. It is worth going to see. I will be seeing it a second time on Thursday, right after we're done with the show here. So consider that. This is one of those spectacle movies. It's shot in that way. The world building is phenomenal. As far as sticking with the book, the deviations are going to distract the book nerds. And I said this film was made for 3 audiences in my review, and I'm very serious about that. It's made for normies, it's made for the casual fan, and it's made for the book nerds. The problem is none of those 3 groups are going to be satisfied. It's still ranked very high. I gave it a 9 out of 10. But when I look at it, I mean, okay, the sound design, sound effects, all of that, amazing. Soundtrack, there's no soundtrack. It's a lot of orchestral.
It is improved over the first film. I will give.
Sure, but it's not something I'm going to buy a disc for and listen to. So, and then direction obviously is great. Denis really did a good job. But there are some dramatic changes that are inconsistent with the book, and there are some characters not acting like their characters would have acted. One of those is Chani.
Well, let me just interject ever so slightly, right? So, Lord of the Rings considered the best adaptation of all time, right?
Yeah,
or one of anyway. They changed quite a lot actually from the books, and they left out quite a lot from the books.
Yes.
So, do you feel that maybe being slightly harsh on the adaptation element?
No. To get to it, I would say that as far as adaptations go, this is about as good as you could do with this book. These are, again, Dune. The first Dune book has been divided into 2 films, and then you get into all the other books, right? So I think the biggest problem is you had a ton of material, and there's no way to get it into even 3 movies.
I don't know about that culture. Here's where I think you and I disagree a little bit on this, because running time wise, this is already longer than the 3-part sci-fi miniseries.
Right.
And this is where I hold Denny accountable. He wasted a lot of real estate.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things that did not make it into this movie, these 2 movies, that there's no real excuse that they didn't. Right. Yeah. And they kind of should be there for not just the book fans, but I'm surprised how many of the normies are actually able to follow this.
Me too.
Some I've talked to, they're kind of, it's like, it's a little hard to understand, but once you kind of explain the breakdown, and that's where I feel like it's missing. And this is where Lynch was right to have it, the first original film, kick off, and even the sci-fi version does have the narrative flow through it too. You needed to have somebody, whether it was Chani in the first part and then the princess in the second one, or just the princess through the whole thing, because that's loosely what the book is based around, is her letters and accounts.
Recounting it. Yeah, but they kind of did that at the beginning of the movie.
They did it this one, but not so much. And you needed that in all throughout it, to where you kind of get an idea of that. You just need that little quick 2-3 minute setup of everything to kind of understand where you are, what is going on here, the politics of it all. And that's kind of lost in the mix. So I'm curious how many normies are going to get into it, but I don't think that's going to be a bigger problem as the book fans. The book fans are going to have a problem.
Yes.
And the people who are not happy about Zendaya being in this in the first place are the ones who are going to
really not like it. Yeah. I mean, Zendaya can act, and you know.
Let's let me just pull it right back to a different element, because I see what you're focusing on. I get that, right?
Right.
But let's pull it right back, right? Because I've not seen it, and I enjoyed the first one for what it was. I thought it was a good film. I enjoyed it. Didn't really care much for the soundtrack, which I copped a lot of flack for. But let's talk about this. Remove the book, remove the adaptation. Is this a good story? Is it a good movie?
Yeah.
Is it something which you would recommend? Where does it sit on a scale?
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah, on a scale, I gave it a 9 out of 10. I gave it a 9 out of 10. And Elaine, for being as lore brain as she is, I think gave it a 7 out of 10.
Okay. So then, I mean, arguably, would you recommend people spend the money to go and watch it?
Oh yeah, go find the biggest screen you can. I already told you guys.
Then I'm going to say, you guys are both coming across awfully negative for people that would recommend the film.
It's true. Because it's not.
This is going to be one of those ones that we debate for a while and talk about. Not in a sense like Star Wars Last Jedi. The big thing I think that's going to come off like that is just going to mainly be Chani and Zendaya. and how people
the
react and
change in
talk
the
about
character. Yeah.
the changes in the character, whether or not she was a good choice to begin with. Because that's where my problems came from. And to me, it's like if the writing was fine, I probably wouldn't have cared she was there. The issue is that what they do with her character, without getting into spoilers, like I said, is going to bother a lot of people. And I think some people who aren't even knowledgeable of the book, because I reviewed the film with Culture and Price of Reason the other night after we got back. And Price of Reason, somebody who's never seen the movies, never read the book, going in completely cold to the first film in this one. And he said the same thing. Something didn't feel right about Chani. She comes off way too modern woman.
Yeah.
It doesn't fit in the overall scheme of things and the choices that she makes and the way she reacts to things.
Well, and it's
kind of that's the movie's main issue. Otherwise, yes, you could have issues with like the guild not being there and the mentats being kind of sidelined a little bit.
Well,
but
and
they
the
do put a lot of
navigators.
that in the navigators, obviously, but they put a lot of that kind of stuff into the Bene Gesserit characters. So it's going off of what you asked Mr. H about how you deal with certain things in the adaptation. They handle certain things like that well, but other things I feel like Denny and whoever he worked with in the adaptation didn't. And Andre said if he had shot that first movie the way that script was, it would have been perfect. And that's what disappointed him, was how much stuff that was left out and changed in between the process. And that's where I'm curious here, how much was meant to be like the book, how much is maybe either, you know, Zendaya's people going against the grain saying we want to change these things and Denny giving into it, which is maybe why he's going out and saying that her character has got such a different role or a bigger role in this. I wouldn't say it's bigger. I just say it's different because Chani's always there. She's a big part of the second half of the story. In fact, a lot of stuff that Chani does in the book gets cut out completely.
Oh yeah.
So again, not to get into spoilers, but I'm not even sure anymore if she's supposed to be related to Liet Kynes anymore. See, that's the other thing that this movie kind of made me question. So I'm like trying to remember, did she even mention, because she's barely in the first movie and they don't mention Kynes at all in this film.
No.
So
interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there are characters completely left out. That happened in the first movie as well. There's a lot of things that are not present. There's a lot of things that are shifted. But again, I'm giving it a great score. It was a good movie. I would recommend you see it because you don't get to see this scope of filmmaking anymore. This was shot for IMAX. It is shot with the biggest screen, the best sound possible in mind. This is an Oppenheimer kind of scale. So to appreciate it, go to your biggest theater with the best sound.
How was the score? Was it better than the first one?
Yeah, a little bit better. You can at least, it's got more themes in it than just noise this time out.
Sure.
I mean, Paul's kind of got this kind of theme, and so does like Chani and stuff. I mean, but again, you could barely call it recognizable. The big things that turned me on about this movie that are great is Stilgar, played by Javier Bardem, just stole the entire. In fact, you could tell the audience was with him the whole way because he has a really great moment. Pretty much the only laugh in the entire movie. He gets it, and everybody loved it, and you could tell the crowd was with him through the whole thing. The end, everybody cheered, right? And again, Timothy Chalamet, I'll never say anything bad about him again. As twinky as he is, the kid pulled it off for me. I felt the turn that I never got to see with Anakin Skywalker in this movie.
Yes. Yeah.
And he pulled it off. He went from naive-ish kid to cold-blooded megalomaniac, whatever you want to call it, in a nice turn. The only thing that's sad about it is that the things that caused him to turn the book aren't here exactly. They twist things around a bit and compress. And that's the other thing. And so, but I'm trying not to be negative. The positives are there. Like Christopher Walken, great in it. Florence Pugh was good in it, but I wish they had come up with a different costume scheme for her. They're going for this 1940s Hollywood starlet look, and it doesn't work. And it makes her look not so great with her hair and some other things, but she's fine. God, help me out here, because Josh Brolin was decent in it, but they've kind of combined Gurney's character with kind of with Duncan a little bit. It feels like more so because they're kind of turning him more into a military guy in this one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's like that, but Josh is okay. I mean, yeah.
What? Brolin is Brolining.
He's Brolining. I mean, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like he's not bad, but he's
Phoning
not
in a little bit.
standing above anybody else in the movie. Rebecca Ferguson, though, is great.
Yeah.
Most of the main cast was pretty good.
So let me ask. Let me ask you this.
We didn't even mention Fade, of course.
Oh yeah, Fade. Okay, Austin Butler is the breakout star of this film. Unbelievable. That guy can play anything.
He's got to get away from doing voices after this, though.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because his trick in this one is he's basically doing the same exact voice accent as Skarsgård. So from his next role, whatever he does, he cannot do a voice like Elvis or this because he's getting too into being the voice guy like Johnny Depp.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. All right, so let me ask you this then, guys. You gave, especially you, Tom, you gave really high predictions for its global box office based on the fact now you've
and I'm
seen
standing
it.
by him.
All right, fuck, didn't you let me finish? Based on the fact that now you've seen it, obviously a lot of that would come from word of mouth. Do you think the word of mouth will carry it through to incredibly high box office?
I think so. I think the normies are going to eat this up. The only debates are going to be within the fan community, I think, mainly.
Okay.
And they're not going to be the kind of Star Wars-y Marvel debates we've had lately to where it's going to be like one faction of the people are going to be like, oh, you just don't like it because you're istophobes. No, I think there's very nuanced conversations to be had about what's not here, what's here, what should be here, what shouldn't be here, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. I mean, basically the most easiest target would be Zendaya. I get it. But at the end of the day, if she had just been given the right stuff to work with, I think it wouldn't have mattered so much. But other than that, I don't think anybody else, as far as the normie population, is going to have a problem with it. Everybody I know who's never really seen it outside of, like I said, Price had noticed that, but he still liked the movie. Everybody I've talked to liked the movie. So I don't think that the normie public is going to have a problem with it. It's selling out like crazy. Like I went to try and get another screening within the next few days to go see it this weekend. They're all sold out. They're all sold out. And it's like, there's no chance I'm going to get to see it this weekend. So if you do get a chance, if you haven't got tickets already, keep searching. You might not get to see it in IMAX the first time out, but definitely try to see it in IMAX if you can. I do recommend that. It's one of those movies. It's going to get nominated for Oscars. It better, at least for certain people and certain things. Visually, it's stunning. Audibly, it's amazing. I mean, it's one of those achievements. Now, I'm not going to jump on this train of people who are comparing it to movies like Lord of the Rings or Empire Strikes Back yet. I always say that these movies need 15, 20 years to breathe before you can start comparing them to films like that. So that's the first knee-jerk reaction to anybody who reviews a film like that. I have a hard time taking them seriously. But it's a complicated but very amazing film. So again, some people it's just not going to be their bag. But at the end of the day, most people are going to eat this stuff up. The Timothy Chalamet girls are going to love it. And they're going to go back and see it probably more than once. Although I know girls usually don't do that. I still stand by he is the reason Wonka made the money it did.
Okay. And so what's your bet on?
I think it's going to hit $1 billion. I think it'll hit $1 billion.
Okay, billion. Nice.
I think US side it'll probably somewhere between 3 and 4, and then outside the US it's going to make a little bit more, like the first film did. But I think it's going to surprise and go above expectations.
All right, and culture. What would you do? You think it's what do you think it's going to do really well? If so, what do you?
I think we're looking at far better than I anticipated as far as the opening. I think that even Deadline is getting it wrong. I think if this thing probably has a 190 box office, it's going to be this worldwide opening. Here in the States, it's going to make at least 80.
It might even scrape 200, but I don't want to get that. I think the fact that the length is going to hurt that.
With that, and everybody's going to want to see it on a premium, premium screen, which the seating is limited in those. So
I can go see it this weekend in my cheap little $5 crap theater downtown here if I really want to.
on the top end, I'm going to give myself a pretty wide range. I could foresee, depending upon word of mouth, this getting as high as $980 million global at the end of
Right.
its run. And I think that on the bottom end of that, probably right at that $700 million mark. Now, the film, I think, was budgeted at $190 million. And I know they pumped about the same amount into the promotion campaign. So, I mean, they really went with it this time around.
Well,
So,
and I see some people in the chat are kind of like saying like, oh, they don't think. Look, got to remember how much the first movie did make during the pandemic, being
434 million
simultaneously released on both HBO Max and in theaters at the same time. So it was very available for downloading and all that kind of crap, and it still did very, 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 very well. And not only that, it seemingly, from what I had heard from my people back at the time, did very well on HBO Max as well. So they were very happy with it. In fact, they went forward with the sequel rather quickly, and I wouldn't be surprised if we start hearing about part 3 already by the end of this week or the beginning of next week being greenlit. I mean, Villeneuve is already talking about having part 3 written, so I think they're going to be ready to go with that. Plus that series,
the Bene Gesserit series. Yeah.
And here's the thing with this. It may not have the kind of legs Spider-Man had, but it does have. Spider-Man was just as long as this. That's one thing we got to keep in mind. Spider-Man was a long ass movie. It was 2 hours and 48 minutes or whatever it was. This is about the same. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So don't underestimate the where this could go at the end. I just think it may not have the repeat kind of thing that Spider-Man. No Way Home was one of those things that it's once in a lifetime.
Very much repeat viewing
that's
of it.
That's why I think this will top off somewhere right around $1 billion. I mean, culture could be right, just under. But yeah, I think that the interest is there for it, and I don't think the time is going to hurt it as much. So yeah, I think it'll be all right.
Well, great to get.
I just to add to that, one thing that has to be added. There's not a lot of competition.
That too, until Ghostbusters comes out.
Yeah,
true. Well, great to get your reviews. Great to get your thoughts on the box office projections. I have literally, as you guys were talking, you might have seen me looking down. I've just booked my tickets for Saturday morning in IMAX, 10:43. So you guys will have my review out. I don't know, come Saturday afternoon, basically. It wasn't fully booked though, which is interesting. And there was 3 IMAX showings that day. None of them were fully booked, but that does seem to be the UK at the moment.
And I thought it'd do better in the UK, actually.
No, the desire for films in the UK isn't that big. You got to remember, we have a pretty major money crisis in the UK at the moment.
Oh, okay.
Well, yes, there is a global recession.
There is a financial crisis in the UK. So
Germany's economy is falling apart as we speak, and yeah.
How is it doing compared to regular screens, though?
Oh,
it's not as expensive. Yeah, I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, it's only like £4 difference. It's not that. It's like $6 or whatever. So it's not that different. But good. All right, nice to get your thoughts, guys.